I'm Mitch Henck, and I was reading the op-ed pages in the State Journal last week, and I see one column on tax cut supply side cranks. Now, they never work. That Scott Walker was at a meeting in New York with Arthur Laffer and Larry Kudlow and other supply siders. Laffer, remember the Laffer curve and Ronald Reagan? Well, let's look at some major federal tax cuts, which have an effect on the national economy, which affects state economies. In 1963, JFK proposed a massive tax cut to spur the economy. It was passed by Lyndon Johnson in February of '64, a short time after the assassination. The economy grew, revenues increased, and Johnson had money for guns and butter. Ronald Reagan in 1981 cut taxes again, the Kemp-Roth bill. Revenues actually increased dramatically. In fact, revenues doubled from 1980 to 1990. That's taking revenues all the way back from George Washington to Jimmy Carter. You can't blame deficits on tax cuts because deficits under Reagan grew because people spent more. Congress and Reagan together spent more than they took in. You can't blame the deficits on the lack of revenue because revenues doubled between 80 and 90. And when George W. Bush cut taxes in 2001, 2003, they were deferred until fiscal 04, and revenues again increased by about $700 billion until the meltdown of 2008. Now, the state is different. Because the state rates, you have 7.65% the top rate, you cut that, it's not going to affect the state economy because the federal code impacts the state economy more. So you might not have the revenues you want. In fact, revenues might go down as we're seeing now. Proponents of the tax cuts are hoping to see the numbers in the spring to see if they have more revenues. All I would say is that you have to look at revenues. The fact that we have deficits under Reagan is not because of tax cuts, it's because people spent. Congress spent more than they took in. So when you say tax cuts are bad and people who support them are cranks, no, what you really have to say is that they're smart, but the people who spend more than they take in are cranks. And that's my unpopular 2 minutes. My 2 minutes are brought to you by Edge Construction and Capital Consultants. Bill McCoshen, a great lobbyist who can get things done downtown, pass a law, pass a referendum, and get things to move very quickly at the Capitol. We'll see you next time.